views, opinions, and beliefs expressed by this poet in no way states or reflects those of TM Poets, any of its affiliates, or the management. Furthermore, this poet solemnly swears not to be a mouthpiece for any domestic or foreign government, party, regime, network, organization, or any other form or body of tribalization currently infecting the citizens of this and other nations. They are feeding on our separation. All I ask is that you replace memorization with innovation, and never stop thinking, never stop questioning, never stop dreaming, and never stop believing in something greater than this. We are a people that have detached and disconnected. We have been pitted against each other. We have chose sides and joined groups. We have been quarantined in echo chambers, self-detained, stripped of freedoms, and learned to fit in instead of going outside to remind ourselves that life is still beautiful, despite all disturbing graphic images fed to all residents. Warning, I may just remind you that you are you and not the you they say you are. Warning, I may remind you that you are not as helpless as they may make you believe. Warning, I believe in my words, but also believe it is my responsibility to tell you I may not always be right, and I'm okay with that, but just maybe there will be that one quiet person not here, listening, reminding themselves that they have a voice, that they should be heard, that we should all be heard, that we as a people have forgotten just how strong we can be if we just decided to be ourselves. Warning.
COVID 1984. Knock, knock on your front door. It's a CDC secret police. Will inject you, you'll never be free. Take you to brand new camps. Friends and family turning who ran. All lives matter, killing Afghanistan. Replace a people's fist with the government hand. Those that swore never again. Gonna make sure it happens again. Those that swore never again. Gonna make sure it happens again. Those that swore never again. Gonna make sure it happens again. Liberty, all this in the name of liberty. 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 All this in the name of supremacy. Behead the queen or we'll never be. Head the queen or we'll never be. Head the queen or we'll never be. Head the queen or we'll never be free.
Jesus and Judas are sitting on the back porch singing the devil's blues. The threat to free will has killed all the angels. A war in the heavens, hell on earth.
Whatever happened to that common collective, to learning from each other, to merging as one, to speak as be a potential target for the norm? Normalcy is complacency, is easily convinced to follow every piper sent, doing the devil's bidding, protecting those who abandon you, worshiping those who don't believe in you, standing for those that watch those divided fall, listening to silence, deciphering static, reading pictures, receiving messages, retrieving pieces of ancient puzzles.
I challenge no God but the man that believes he knows her.
Darwin's fish swam selfish, homeless Jesus, a church saw profitless, the good book edited by bankers and lobbyists. Some that preach this mistake themselves for God when they begin to change the words, mistranslating hymns, rewriting scripts, reviving lost books will tell tales of these hypocrites back then, trying to introduce religion to who you call Indian, when it was them that escaped Babylon and battled the Nephilim. Who should have been saving who? I ask you. What truths have made it through concrete palaces, keeping us from being truly connected to the land? Bright neon lights that blind our eyes from what's really there and what truly needs to be seen. A social media co-wrote by the CIA, approved by the shadow masters. Your truths are self-evident, but not evident enough for everyone else. There are more followers for presidents than actual leaders. Presidents, self-elected, media-made messiahs of exiled sheep. Every 4 years, like a second coming, although true control has never transitioned. The system never truly changed. A system made possible by global suffrage and the demonization of resistance.
Morning and evening, daily instructions devalue belief systems. Praise God!
They are selling you different roles in the same game. They are telling you different things that mean the exact same thing. Learn how to translate sugar-coated, coded sayings. You were sold boogeymen and disguised fear through bigotry and violence and fancy words. A truth forever unheard. A design within these borders reminds how controlled some of our thoughts have become. Trying to tell me a stranger story you overheard through slander and gossip, not a proper introduction. Sellers ascend, selling souls to lesser men, manifestors and predecessors and selectors of shades of skin. Supremacists not realizing they supremacists. They sleep soundly on the backs of our forgotten children. They still worship in religion, oppressing women. And when one confronts them, they can only mask opposition with labels and dismiss inconvenient truth as fables. And whatever side you think you were on has sold you a new cage, afraid of freedom, resting in the shade of an oppressor's wing. So high off dopamine, an overdose of coltan. Sultans applaud your contribution to slavery. We are destroying one's land to save our version of the same world. The Congo, the Serengeti, the cobalt, the diamonds, the coltan, oil, black blood, cancer-stricken spots of a rainforest. Depending on which politician owns you, you may have a different perspective. So what have they told you to tell me? 20,000 leagues and many still can't see beneath the surface. The worst is many believe what they don't want to believe in isn't happening. The world is laughing, watching two turners of the same wheel fighting over who sends us in circles. An investigation sends us in circles as we pay no real attention to coup after coup, blind to the truth of a new world order spreading through the Caribbean. Victims of misinformation, distracted by self-worship and cellular religion. Cell phone cells sold to those with no code. VPN like UPN sold last generation a generic negative self-image. So worried about being fly, we forgot how to use our wings. Now, on the ground, waiting around to drown instead of rebuilding that ark. As I speak, puddles begin overflowing as we witness the inevitable in Turkey, the UK, China, and Germany, and many of our greatest defenses are distraction and denial. We are not ready. We take the knee before TV, asking what to do next, asking for permission to act, acting like anyone but ourselves, painters of pretty pictures over a corpse's makeover. We have become comfortably numb, incapable of being bothered by another's discomfort, unable to produce tears like rivers of a stranger's blood. Where is that love we speak of? The love we can't even practice at home. The love which only exists in pockets, but not enough to break through set parameters. We are more eager to be right than to be wise, to fight than to realize all we thought to have escaped is all we brought with us. Colonization was the death of humanity, deconstruction of natural beauty, demonization of purity, freedom redirected back to captivity. Bring me the head of the queen. Time to end her legacy, to recollect history, to reread our story, but most importantly, to rediscover ourselves without being defined by no other.
Someone better start clapping them hands like Episcopalian revivals. You think your beliefs can defeat me?
Oh, see, can you see? Born-again Christian, bringing Armageddon to small eastern villages. Followers to the Torah, daily bathing in pools of Palestinian blood. Once great nations, now kneeling in obedience. Freedom is a hologram and someone has broken the projector, pulled back the curtain, exposing the fraud of so-called greatness. An infection that tampers with foreign affairs. If time heals all wounds, why do we continue to pick at the scabs, designing more visible scars, leaving deeper marks, spreading caution to those who dare defy with immunity and form a sovereignty, serenity is lost upon us. Mechanically winged angels suffer engine failure, choking on the exhaust. No God exists within these borders. No angels rest on these soldiers' shoulders. Beware, demons of earth, bringers of sickness, screaming fever, stealers of breath, freedom fighters assembling squadrons of death, hunting children with those believing in vengeance, get labeled terrorists within the perimeter of their own homes, executed by drones as soon as they reach the street.
Oh, say, can you see? Oh, Satan, I see.
We journey from pyramids to teepees, the true history of Cherokees, the downsizing of ancestors, forgetting who we are, remembering the lash of leather whips, recalling walking through the flames of burning trees, burning teepees, burning cabins, burning buildings, fires of the heart, a heated passion, last year's fashion, times change, trends change, now back to double masking and obedience, and overnight cures approved by the same government that tested mustard gas and atomic blast on troops, the same government that sponsored 40 years of injecting syphilis in the arms of black sharecroppers that Clinton apologized for soon as he co-signed Biden's crime bill targeting one people of the population. Our nation sanctions itself repeatedly.
Satan, I see.
Many wear their chains so proud and learn how to stand up for the same that knocked them down. We are delivered public education to mold us into factory workers and button pushers, and a higher education to enslave us even further. The secret to our success is to learn how we are being oppressed, and instead of finding comfort in being ordinarily silently depressed, let's learn how to reflect, how to reset, how to select the correct path to travel. They downgrade steel chains replaced with fabric, now more easily to unravel. Escaping Babylon, skydiving from Babel, we babble in tongue, telling tales of freedom, redemption, liberation, exploration, psychological transformation. Bureaucrats turn broader perspectives, hope, positivity, and upliftment to blues, paranoia, insecurity, fear brought by propaganda and misinformation.
Oh, Satan, can you see?
Prophets that once rebelled, their books are being rewritten. Race baiting, classism, division. This isn't true Christian. Conservatism sold you revised visions, and liberalism just sold you. We, the people, we must force this nation to become what it has always claimed to be. Burn your flags, inhale your dreams, exhale inspiration. You are the light burning candles, not the candles that melt. You are the thought, the thinker, the ideology behind every great setting that many have become blind to. Closing our eyes to the outside, opening our eyes inside of an unlit box. Our thoughts a twisted paradox. We are purposely being misled through confusion, misguided by boogeymen, scared to question, dare not question New World Order. God dare not tear the label another throws on you.
Dare not speak of the sex and previously free, approved by the CDC. TV tells you and me to be afraid, to doubt ourselves, to distance ourselves, and to make something yourself.
They will use the worst examples of their opposition they can find to properly demonize the other side, so we stay in line and forget the top stories they were forced to tell us yesterday, incriminating everything they say today. We are lambs seeking safety in the lion's den. We are treated like idiots with short attention spans. I can still remember watching bad things happen and thinking how these bad things would justify other bad things soon to happen to strangers, and I wish I was wrong, and today is no different than the morning of 9/11. That was no different than billions of other yesterdays in lands far away. Karma is inevitable.
Oh, Satan, can you see? Oh, Satan, I see.
They have been rewriting our biographies from day one. They have been remapping our destination, rewording our dialogue, re-editing family movies, but some are beginning to see. But these lives are real, these tears truly fall, this heart broken. Let's open those closed fists, extend our arms like branches, sprouting open palms, learning to look beyond caution, fear, labels, reaching for lost dreams, last moments, memories. Today becomes tomorrow. Oh, say, Can you see through the eyes of the picture staring at the painters?
Oh, see, can you see?
A society of strangers, terrified of each other but scared of being alone, fully uniting during moments of crisis, drawing lines, dividing sides, fighting because we are terrified and every one of us has been suspect. We only know each other by our caricatures on TV. When you look at me, what do these demon eyes see? I see they've taught you well. I hear them lies they tell. I speak what they won't sell. We, the people. We, the walking primitive computers programmed by their viruses. Our hard drives have been rewritten. We are incapable of knowing who we are until we go so far that their signals won't reach us. Visiting our lost companions, exiled in the wilderness, communicating through a forgotten dialect of movement and heartbeats. Only then can we see what they've done to us, how they've lied to us, how they're killing us. Sidewalks over a dying species, streetlights where the moonlight used to be. Concrete keeps our feet from being free. How is it we turn our backs on loved ones and turn to strangers untrustworthy? Strangers that have sold us, that mold us into their subjects, that know just what to say next to keep us powerless through division. You do the math, listen to them laugh. Uncertainty, insecurity, mommy and daddy watching TV more than children. TV turns parents against children. The channels have changed us. The voices gave us directions. We followed, we got lost, we've been misguided. A bottle of false courage, home of the brave, of the enemy, of the almighty design, of the vast illusion of freedom, of the terrorist group known as freedom fighters, of a demonized immigrant taking the spotlight, taking the blame for homegrown problems. Yes, officer, state your name for yes, officer. Name your state of yes, officer. State your name for yes, officer. Name your state of origin. This so-called all-inclusive administration still turning away sinking ships filled with Haitians. Administration after administration, still paper bag testing, still wiping memories clear of any recollection of the past. A history forbidden become today's blueprints when cowering puppets on news networks use words such as the greater good for the betterment of society. Listen to the experts, to the science. When cowering puppets on news networks choose to hide the views and silence the voices of citizens, we should all begin to get just a little bit worried. And sadly, when being born into this, it's a little harder to see. A little harder to question what you've always believed. A little harder to listen to those told to be your enemy, but listen! I mean, truly listen. Turn off the television, lower your tracking device, and remember what it is to be alive. And maybe, just maybe, try to talk to some of the people that the media wants to warn you about. When did learning to sympathize make someone seem weak? When did we decide to wear this good guy badge and declare ourselves more deserving of peace than those that our tax dollars are currently funding the genocide of? We, the people, we, the naive, we who need to be a little more thoughtful, a little more humble, a little more loving, a little more understanding, only falling down the rabbit holes we agree with. We, the physically obese, devourers of sugar and misinformation, we wave flags of tolerance as we hide behind them. We judge just the same. We judge those we don't look like, don't think like, just don't like. From happiness we turn away. Our number one fantasy is more drama. We are dull, uninspired, tired, hungry, searching for a cause, for applause, for recognition, throwing loved ones to the wolves, then posting their death online, making sure every cry, every last tear is caught by the camera. We are invited on talk shows to discuss our loss, then likeness rights, royalties, and movie deals. The crowd feels more for the stranger than their very own loved ones. We are worker ants building kingdoms bound to fall, only to rebuild a stronger fortress for the forces snapping that invisible whip. We only agree with the most current narrative, only to resist when the resistance is endorsed by those in power. We're not here to make sense, but make commercials for others. We are products. We are vices. We are numbers on sheets, names on government lists. We have grown far too comfortable with an overreach of power they claim only does bad things to keep us safe from boogeymen that don't really exist. We are a people that dance in projections of paradise, love's mirage, illusions of freedom. Sometimes freedom leads to incarceration. Sometimes those outside are trapped inside an even smaller box that keeps on shrinking. We, the people, a species of gimme-gimmes, crying over employees not smiling, an over-obsession with self-entitlement. Love songs sung by heartless siren, peaceful movements discredited by CIA. Violence turns the people on the people, only empowering the authoritarian. Keeping serpents in control. Keeping rats running in cheap control. Keeping all the thems, theys, and those exactly where they were told they belong. Seized, thrown, sold. Some become statues. Some become tokens. Some only ornaments and lawns. Origins of lost civilizations become fairy tales. Our memories once again rewritten. We've been here, we've done this, we've seen this all before, but the channels have changed us. These diets malnourish us. These stories transpire fear. Fear becomes hopelessness. With hopelessness comes bad habits and depression. This too will weaken us. We turn to our handlers. We roll up our sleeves. We place trust in those that betrayed us yesterday, that poisoned us yesterday. We break the disappearance of culture. Now just cult. Easiest way to distract us is to attack us with us, but it's not over. Many have yet to be marked. Others sport band-aids on their arms like golden stars. Those that fall won't make it anywhere near top story. We have the right not to die silently. And to the youth, each and every day we approach our expiration. What will you leave behind? You are what painters try to capture in paintings, what spiritualists try to find while praying. You made mutes and mimes speak their mind, birthed from fallen stars, and now it's time for you to shine, for you to rise. Break beats, sampled broken heartbeats. You are remixed legends on turntables. Flip chairs, close windows, open doors for better tomorrows. We, the people, oh, say, can you see past all the rhetoric they teach? Oh, say, can you see how they've infected our dreams? Oh, say, can you see exactly who and what it is that you were always meant to be? And that includes you, and you, and you, and you. And you. And my friends, if you agree, even if you disagree, always keep your mind, your ears, and your eyes open. And please, don't ever fall back to sleep.
Love you when they see you as a guy. Leave you when they see you a human. Love you when
when they see you as a god. Leave you when they see you a human.
Stop!
Love you when they see you as a god. Leave you when they see you a human. What's it gonna take to break this illusion?
Don't stop.
Carry on the work of peace. We will defend our freedom.
Is a figment of the authoritarian, barbarian, totalitarian's imagination. The engines of domestic automobiles require foreign blood. We must starve this natural man living in the wilderness in order to practice an organic, all-natural lifestyle created with biogenetically engineered origins. Your wars are nothing more than sports. Your reasons are unjust. In God we trust until we began to believe we were bigger than Jesus. And just like many more before, intellectuals will run their mouths about those that can no longer speak for themselves. Safe spaces believe themselves to be the entire fucking universe. Like parakeets we chirp, like ants we build, like sheep we serve. These overused comparisons we continue to fulfill. Our vices consist of another's suffrage. Our rewards have been obtained through theft. Museums are collections of trophies obtained from our victims. We have yet to live to the full extent of the reality we all in some way have thrown onto strangers. And what stranger we believe we are helping? We, the helpless. We, the hopeless. Manufacturing crisis. We are prolonging the inevitable. We are poisoning the waters, darkening the skies, shifting the tides. We are the creators of tsunamis and floods. I have not enlisted to be the next sacrifice for your well-being and peace of mind. Every day I wonder just how they found a way into mankind's mind and convinced them everything would be alright if an entire planet just took the knee before their master, offering complete obedience, fully compliant. How are so many okay with this, and how do you trust the science if you were only following actors on TV and ignoring actual scientific studies? This makes no sense. All of you are better than this. Is it that you're scared of the government, of the secret police, of the boogeymen of overseas, of new disease, of not being the cool kid anymore? Have you given up? Have you turned to media outlets that have turned you, that have trained you to share their opinions, to endorse their preemptive points of view, to plagiarize their overused talking points? These words are not yours, but memorized text from last night's broadcast. Your thoughts have been infected. Your ideas were tampered with. Do not speak until you learn to use your own voice. Do not dream until you have disinfected each and every setting. We must learn to be ourselves again. We must refuse to spread their ghost stories, their propaganda, their lies, their narratives. We must say what we see and not what they tell. We must break free from this spell of these products they sell. Their foods sedate you. Their diets weaken you. Their fear controls you. Their medicine sickens you. Their ill intent reinvents you. Their schools mold you. They craft you, design you, control you. What defines you but a bastardized mischaracterization of who you truly are? From birth, we have been sold into a simulation of what actually is. They boxed you in, then called you free. They taught you to hate others that don't look like you, men that you never knew, to fear those that only stood in the way of an empire's progress. Our species processed, far from real, hucklebucking the cross apocalypse. And if you ain't sick, don't worry, they'll catch up with you. You stand with strangers but won't stand for loved ones. You won't trust friends but swear a blind allegiance to a system that offers very little sincerity. Since the beginning, they've been turning citizen against citizen, selling us diversions, hanging us from curtains. We, the decorations, nothing more than tokens. The breath of freedom, interrupted by authority and environment. heavy smoke and chokehold. Tell me once again just how much they love us, how they look out for us, how they only want to help us, how they only do really bad things to keep us safe. By desecrating, by defacing, by defamating entire villages, cities, nations, by raping a people, a culture, an entire fucking world. This is what makes enemies. So tell me how we are the good guys, because that's what teacher and TV taught us to believe. Our entire lives based on fictitious misbetrayals. Victors write the history books. We fight for all these freedoms while many fight these freedoms that can provide answers. Gag orders, terms of service, digitalized soapbox in a private domain, the ostracized truth, the slander of one who speaks, the infiltration, then demonization of movements, tribalization furthering the divide, trying to send us 400 years back. There are those who open their mind only to open the wrong book, to watch the news, to get lost in the sensationalism used to sell their product, to fill the mind with untruths used to purposely confuse those fully attentive, forming the wrong opinion and calling it fact. That kind of person that indulges in conversation but only hears themselves and those they reference. Popularity contests, fashion show, multiple choice, choose your preference. College is not creating substance but replicating those that only follow instructions. Our society overuses the word equality and rarely puts it to practice. Our society thrives on inequality to feed the machine, not us to feed us to the machine. There are those born as our victims within once beautiful countries being run by the outside influence of today's capitalism. More like totalitarianism. Can't eat that fruit off that tree no more. Can't drink from that stream no more. People are being taught to follow, to repeat, to obey, to not question, to cancel if told to cancel, to cry when given the order. This is not natural. They are recruiting members for small factions, now only smaller fractions of a greater power fighting itself. A weakened people, blind to the obvious that our division multiplies the power of the government, of a system assembling disposable citizens. Some are beginning to wake up. Not every one of us will run, carry fear, or be put back to sleep. I see through these stories. I know what this is. It's happening right in front of us, but sadly, many will never look up from their tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Time is disappearing. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time is timeless, but we are not. Tick-tock. Time is not to be watched, but put to use. Time is never enough. We are scheduled in ways to strengthen change, to keep us in place, to prevent actual change. There are those that accept this, that believe this, that blame themselves, but never those that pulled their switch. This is madness. This is not the definition of freedom, but the deafening of freedom. Many have chose not to stand too close to those real, for it may just shatter their illusion. Act as woke as you won't. Sad fact, we are still supporting countless genocide, to pretending not to know a damn thing about them. Love you when they see you as a god. Leave you when they see you a human. Love you when they see you as a god. Leave you when they see you a human. Love you when they see you as a god. Leave you when they see you a human. Time to finally break this illusion.
Carry on the work of peace.
When the crowd sits back, stares at themselves, and sees nothing.
I need you.
You gotta kill who we want you to kill. You gotta
ministers of defense that have found religion and lost their deity. To a nation that has never truly been what it claims to be. To citizens seduced by division with that us versus them mentality. Your tears will water stillborns and memories will keep them alive. 50 dream states plagued with nightmares. Rabbit holes with rabbit souls babble messages unclear. Like parakeets we chirp another's absurd ramblings. A new disease, a new fear, a new enemy, a new reason to stay inside. We have replaced staring contests with predictive texts, no longer looking deep into each other's souls. Our senses have been dulled. We are replicants of pioneers. We mimic great speeches, memorization over innovation. We are taught but do not learn. We read but can't tell you what the books say. There are tribes that have been brought up to feed on the flesh of those said to be their enemy. Their alleged enemy raised just the same. Our promised tomorrows buried yesterday. A fictitious history of imaginary wars played with plastic army men melted by the seventh sun. What's become has begun. God's will be seen, mad king be done. Walk this path that a fool will run. Unable to see without TV or tiny screen. One nation that's forgot where they're really from. A witch, well done. How the West was won. Destined to repeat all we don't believe in. Damaged belief systems, untapped powers. An army of cowards. Killing peasants, take a second look at what you support, what you endorse, what you stand for, what you kneel before. Old glory burnt in homes engulfed by a clansman's fire. A nation on fire, homeland you never knew, heartland of the blues. Drum circles in square buildings, spirits in glasses, entranced by ancient beats like drums we have become. They only listen when we get beat. Yes, I believe in miracles. It's a miracle we still have a pulse. Heartlands, heartbeats we burn in wildfires of freeze and poverty as we swear a blind allegiance to the powers that be. A sick game of charades, face masquerade, man's mistakes, a program of fear. The drugs are killing us, we are addicts. America is a crack house, anti-drug forcibly injected, anti-gun held at gunpoint, stairway to heaven now crumbling. I can't think straight until I learn to move the mountains before me, trapped within the maze of an unforgiving desert. Too hard to get these thoughts across the border. Bordered thought equals limited imagination. Equality for every individual was just a slogan. Edited truths, forbidden fruits, slave labor justified by favors given to large corporations, plantations placing a price on all of us, all of you, all in together now in a sinking rusty boat turned away from South Florida's shore. The American dream should be replaced with the American reality. War is business. Our armed forces hold guns to our heads, lost in a crowded stadium, an audience of judging eyes, everyone talking at once, a chorus of confusion, a tone-deaf anthem, hope and change, ropes and chains, a desert deserted, a people executed, a culture cultivated by cults, the mirage of a disappearing village turned mining industry. We have forgotten our roots, many never really knew them. We can only travel forwards but can read backwards through a wilderness of natural beats under poetry. Blind by spotlights down city streets, concrete chokehold on stole land. This continent, a large altar of sacrifice. We bring the wrong gods, these walls stained with images of another time, telling tales of tomorrow, drinking blood of slaves drunk off oppression. A great depression, broken heart, broken people, invisible crown, imaginary kingdom. The children are told to write book reports without reading the entire story. Students become the teacher's science experiment. We are being injected with placebos and promise forever. Obese doctors prescribe sluggish deterioration. One nation of hypochondriacs and comatose cowards. The only signs of life are heartless heartbeats. When a slave calls himself free, their master can't keep from laughing. They're lunatics providing therapy sessions for lost children. We are calling survivalists terrorists and terrorist heroes, and actual terrorists are friends.
Their weapons were supplied by us.
Somewhere on this planet, a young child is learning how to ride his bike. Another is learning how to drive. and another is throwing their first pitch at an Israeli tank in memory of Faris Oda, not even 15 years old. The real reality of war, really genocide. Tell me, where does your freedom lie? What has it said to you? I've said it before. Serfs serving the wrong lords. US-led death squad to practice latest stage of abortion on Afghanistan's children. Thousands have fallen not from keeping us safe but protecting fields of opium. This was never about terrorism. That was just an unfortunate side effect. The real winners were Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing. Our taxes are being given to evil entities desperately trying to fast forward the apocalypse. Our taxes are being pocketed by hospital directors and big pharmacists. Some of our taxes are being given to grieving families of fallen soldiers used as mercs for hire that were pushed into senseless wars by senseless leaders.
Godless, demons.
I promise you, not one person responsible for any of this will ever be harmed. More civilians will die for no reason. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan speaks of compassion for human rights, ignoring the plight of the Palestinians. Blood will cover your helping hand in genocide. Heritage becomes statistic. Name become number. The U.S. military is currently burning toxins in low-income neighborhoods. They are failing to disclose the location of every dump site in the nation, like those responsible for poisoning South Carolina's children. They are releasing the most massive amounts of carbon emissions. They are stripping our planet's inside and expecting it to continue to work for us. Navy war games, killing whales and dolphins, maybe even bringing down buildings filled with people still sleeping. Mother Nature is thirsty. Remind me once again just how much the government loves us. We believe we are the heroes of this movie. We believe someone else's reality is our movie. We get lost in rom-coms, strangers lost by our bombs, been caught up for far too long, caught up so long that we can no longer give an accurate account of who is evil and who is good. We, a species severely misunderstood. We talk with our hands to blind men and grow angry when those deaf don't listen. This is not about keeping us safe but killing us in more creative ways. This is about making drawn-up blueprints look like mistakes. This is about soon apocalypse to be man-made. This is about scientists identifying as gods. This is about our leader being sold to the highest bidder. This is about today's children being taught to carry on yesterday's grudge. This is about a blind allegiance to the powers that be, the darkest we may ever see, that many will choose to never see. This is about walking outside behind the scenes of our edited versions of reality, of what it is to be so many versions of us, of someone else, of ourselves, trying to come together, trying to become together, just trying to be.
You gotta kill who we want you to kill. You gotta kill who we want you to kill. You gotta kill who we want you to kill. You gotta kill who we want you to kill. The weapons were supplied by us.
How this great force may be used for the benefit of mankind.
Taught to demonize rational thought, baptized by memorized words, not to the spirits but false gods. Men that practice magic tricks on crowds of preoccupied citizens, their eyes fused with small screens, a limited vision. Authenticity is a limited edition. Too many covers with very little originals. All these covers without pages, no stories, Bibles of memes, gospels of idiots. We are trying to reset time but find errors in the programming. We are trying to rewrite reality but find we are illiterate. He speaks in tongue, she speaks in microphone. I speak to you. Break out your shell, break from this spell. The door to your cell is open. Come with us, a freedom forbidden, a culture, her body language, double masking, second guessing instinct by the space in between blinks. Never question questioning experts that have made a business out of lying to us. Blind trust is a thin security blanket incapable of protecting one from the sun or the dampness of a rainy night. So many halos, no city of angels. Like puppets we dangle, ridiculous on strings resembling nooses. An elephant never forgets while a jackass kneels before a queen of damnation. This damnation, executioners, actors, cowards of obedience, freedom of speech, but everyone's silent, allowing what's happening to happen, refusing to resist. A blind man's taste test, a free man's lament, the death of a love song without a heart, the breath of Zeus exhaled from fallen buildings, invisible monsters and easily seen heroes, although...
Carry on. Nothing to see here.
Transparency depends on the frequency of a preset RPM. I be him, the man your mama warned you about, the one that won't sell you to an improper suitor while reminding you of your greatness in your lowest of moments. The plague of finance after starting over and over and over. The game over before ever holding the controller. Can't control her. I know her. I've seen her. I've dreamed her. She came with me in dreams. She came to me it seems, but as she stood there, I kept falling. Mind kept calling. Thoughts to reconstruct themselves at the first minute of the following hour. Freedom is now, or so I'm told. Sold to strangers as experiments. A drowning bear, a melting mountain, God's eye in a storm, on organic fury, a planet sinking, mindless mining industries, poison crops, child slavery, women disappearing near Coca-Cola factories, a disease seized by opportunists, a mental sickness, an unawareness to a much more severe illness, a global stillness, unnecessary conflict, obituaries before birth certificates, the coldness of a fire, its last dance on warming waters, Earth's destroyers are blaming us for their factories, scientists blaming creatures for their disease, authority claims they protect us yet neglect as soon as the order is given, sovereign citizens commune in the realms of a dangerous fiction, self-inflicted victims of the highest of all privilege, failing to understand they are not the deities they claim to be, and we are not the sheep to cross steep rocks on skinned knees. I believe in belief and disbelief. I allow fate and destiny to intertwine through time and weave me in eternity, and forever cannot be as long as we speak a controlled language of hatred and doubt. Passing off the unknown is inevitable, writing off stories of the dead no longer here to defend themselves unless we hold the correct seance, but a foolish pride has killed off all belief, and here we are, lighting candles in the dark and summoning the arts of talking to ourselves. We are not the people we used to be. We are far from our ancestors. Our ancestors are not who they told us. Our gods have returned back to their home planet. We are all aliens. Borders are worthless. History books might as well be wordless. We only remember what yesterday's architects want us to. We are but martyrs of logic and reasoning. Poets, the prophets speaking the blues. We are given toys to distract us as they attack us psychologically. These breakthrough diets are designed to weaken us physically. They are teaching us to achieve defeats and suffer silently, worrying more about our image than our character, more concerned with social status than one's own self. Death of a stubborn pride, birthed by a blind allegiance, believing one continent to be the entire fucking universe, blaming overseas for homegrown ignorance. Always choose evolution over revolution. No need to repeat this, but always choose evolution over revolution. Evolution over revolution. Evolution over revolution. The situation is not under control, nor will it ever be. You chose to be under control by those on imaginary thrones of control. They are not in control, lost or control, and sold your soul down by the river, conversing with serpents that had the answer for Adam's ignorance, burying the evidence by burning the women that possess the power to save our homes. Mother Nature is being burned and prescribed fires by deniers of her existence. Mother Nature, by far the most powerful of all the witches, goddess of all, forgotten by too many, objectified and exploited by opportunists. I challenge no God but the man that still believes he knows her. Sweet, sweet mother, forgive every one of these blind bastards, for these fathers have forgot how to raise sons, so their children forever lost in the night.
For the benefit of mankind. chance.
The norm has abandoned all free thoughts and hope upon a cold table at free clinics with the highest cost.
No real chance.
We cherry-pick biased studies and fictitious findings and deem them as undisputable fact.
No real chance.
We are manipulated into taking cures that could possibly spread even further sickness.
No real chance.
We were once a people of innovative thoughts and courage. Now, here we are, running back inside as soon as Big Daddy calls us. Virtually adventurous, mentally inferior. I present to you a mirror filled with darkened orders, instant enemies, pre-selected presidents, and half-ass hacks of common sense. Dumbed down as we drown in the tides of our own undoing. The lies once found so amusing directed us off path and into cells with unlocked doors we chose not to open, hiding behind the same walls we protest, protecting us from ourselves. We have become such idiots that we criticize demonized movements, downsizing our own upliftment, standing by domestic death squads, pouring ourselves cups of Kool-Aid during the apocalypse. A people that gave up on themselves, knocking down any of their neighbors that chose to take a stand. Flags waved from windows symbolize the oppression thought to have been left behind. Soapbox become auction block. We will scream atop mountaintops about all the over there's you can think of and remain silent when it comes to the day we have to lay our own heads on their chopping blocks. Pendulums and axes and mandatory, maybe lethal injections approved by the same groups that never gave a shit about me or you. Unity was a commercial.
No real chance.
We drown in aquariums, selfish, so eager to enlist. In wars, we have no reasons to fight.
No real chance for revival. There's been no significant revival. It's been a life of hanging on, hoping for someday, somewhere over the rainbow, peace and happiness can come again.
Once upon a time, spying or espionage was a fairly straightforward gig. But we've come a long way rather quickly from military. There's something new in the science of spying. It's not just stealing military hardware. It's not just stealing military hardware. It's not just stealing military hardware and secret plans, but using tanks and planes and men to promote our policies around the world and sometimes to overthrow governments. We don't look. It's like a fucking chess game.
The war on the economy, the war on trade, the war on taxation, the war on poverty, the war on domestic policy, the war on domestic violence, the war on a domesticated species, the war on alcohol, the war on drugs, actually the war on competition, the war on poor farmers that never existed, gunned down with their families deep in the jungles of Catatumbo, the war on ghettos, the war on slums, the war on our government that provided these drugs, the war on addiction, the war on acceptance, the war on low self-esteem, the war on dreams, the war on opportunity, the war on your surroundings, the war on mental slavery, the war on mental health, the war on racism, sexism, classism, self-narcissism, any ism a self-proclaimed victim can envision, the war on double standards, the war on labels, the war on depression, the war on antidepressants, the war on disease sponsored by the CDC, the war on the elite, the war on Big Pharma, the war of Farsi, the war of bureaucracy, the war of medical mediocrity, hospitals of malpractice and TikTok nurses, the war on politicizing and straight out lying, bastardizing all well-being, face masking us with false sense of safety, the war on lockdowns, the war on vitamin D, the war on misinformation, the war on restriction, the war on division, the war on loneliness, the war on the US, the war on us, the war within ourselves, the war on love, the war on unity, the war on cover-ups, the war on truth, the war on whistleblowers, the war on veterans, the war on their victims, the war on privacy, the war on assembly, the war on solidarity, the war on sovereignty, the war on polarity, the war on extremism, the war on political activism, the war between two parties exactly the same pretending to be so different, the war on obscenity and vulgarity declared by the same society selling these wars overpiling with real casualties without purpose. The war on our rights, a war designed by the left and the right, a war on self-expression, the war on mannerisms, the war on thought, the war on fashion, the war on TV, the war on the media, the war on slander, the war on propaganda, the war on propaganda selling more war to your children, the war on the military-industrial complex, the war on funding wars we didn't even know we were fighting, the war on presidents refusing to kneel before our half-assed president, the war on culture, the war on privilege, the war on colonialism, the war on first, second, and third worlds, the war on people, the war on amendments, the war on human rights, the war on Africa, which is actually the real war on the environment, the war on crime, the war where we decide who to call the victim and who to call the criminal and how to turn the citizens against the actual victims, the war on authority, the war on an authority that wages war upon its own unprotected citizens, the war on immigrants, the war on Texas finally returning Texas back to Mexico, the war on Palestine, the war on unwelcome settlers, the war on sanctions, the war on everyday harsh realities edited by news stations, the war on Western resistance, the war on regimes, the war on occupations, the war on treason, the war on freedom, the war on freedom's definition and its delusional modifications, the war on religion, the war on God, the war on crypto-Christians, the war on Zionism, the war on supremacists, the war on you pretending to be offended, the war on individualism, the war on capitalism, the war on communism, the war on terrorism, the war birthed by the unquenched thirst for vengeance against the men that slaughtered their village, the war on those that just wanted to be left alone, the war abroad, the war at home, the war brought by strangers referring to those in their own home as invaders, the war on friends, children, and families that accidentally walked under a madman's drone, the war on the man that had this exposed, a war without movement, a war unspoke, a war on imagination created by imagination, a war on war, a war on serfs serving the wrong lords, a war on those that question, a war on critical thought, a war on those that won't dress as a character or answer to a slur to fall into a particular group, a war on figuring out which side to take so you won't lose any more friends from petty-ass arguments, the war currently refraining from using keywords such as talking points, all lives matter, what if it were the other way around, think of the children, Nazi, hippie, super spreader, pro-vaxxer, anti-vaxxer, deplorable, liberal, obey, pray, slave, anyways, a war that has no end, a war that could just end if we...
Yeah, fuck it.
Overthrow governments, invade, occupy, bomb, torture. Those are the things we label democracy. Why? What else are we going to call it? Killing and bombing and torture? Those are the things we label democracy.
It's like a fucking chess game.
Loneliness is a kingdom, and I'm trapped inside its dungeon. Life is a movie that I've never seen. Wife was a mistake that I once made. I see futures in the eyes of strangers. I fear hope for its past betrayals. Art from energy, from pain, from far too many conversations with myself. Sadness is a sea where I once drowned sorrow, and now its ghost wants revenge. Every time I smile, a relapse. Togetherness severed. Every connection, a dial tone. Far too many shadows hide me in the spotlight. Ordinary is what kills us. Judgment is for the lesser species. We look for salvation through sin. Romeo's poison, Juliet's apple. Eden is a memory. Animals still friend to me. We are statistics. We are examples. We are numbers. We are no longer people but experiments. We wait in line. We board trains. We are minutes of eternity. We are trying to grow our wings. We are flying in our dreams and waking up in straitjackets. I know why the caged bird was quarantined. They didn't want us to fly without their jets. They didn't want our freedoms to leave their prisons empty. They didn't want our success without collecting some form of tax. They didn't want us to leave them without help. They are the masters we must learn to defeat. Plantation burning. Women burning. Crosses burning. Tempers burning. Cities burning. Our souls have been dissected by science. Devils in lab coats sell ourselves. We sell ourselves far too short. The second coming gets sold to us every 4 years in form of men behind mirrors, projecting our images over theirs, gaining our trust, hiding truth, hiding bodies, hiding secret deals, hiding viruses that were downloaded onto our computers and uploaded into us. News networks abuse trust. They speak of hate until they anger us. If you believe it is only coming from the left, if you believe it is only coming from the right, then who am I to argue with those that have manipulated you into believing what you should never have believed? Things that even children could see, yet you convince them there is no boogeyman. Well then, explain your own fears, your own irrational views, your own prejudice. Monsters are being projected over the images of victims and unsung heroes. When we no longer worship them, we will be cast aside, making room for others that have fallen deeper into their mindset, pictured through television sets next to loved ones, whispering unactualities, irrationalities, mental disease, ordering proud men to their knees. Be strong. Wi-Fi connection, weak family connection, a disconnection. Turn the channel, a friend turns their back, a lover turns away, families turn on each other. We have the nerve to return to never return. Apocalypse is a rerun, remastered in 4K. History with the blueprint for today. New age slaves and designer chains, playing another man's master, playing another man's game, enslaved just the same, screaming freedom, taking rocks to these chains, but no one can hear you. Earbuds consistently pumping sexism and racism, feeding tomorrow's children shameful family traditions led by liars and conmen, gunmen and bomb men. No one's gonna care till victim look like them. Selfish aquarium, shellfish at the bottom. They look down on the deep and give praise to the shallow. Pride can sometimes be your worst enemy. Pride does not exist beyond your fingertips' reach. Time to be humble without kneeling before your captor. Broken, misspoken, misunderstood. Translation, misunderstood. Kneel, stand tall. Learn to tell when to carry a fist and when to grow an open palm. Reach out. This is not a one-man show. Check your programming. Selling war with no foreign return policy on damaged soldiers. No refund, no recollection, no records of AWOL being built in mental state. Finally tuning senses, coming to senses to rescue lost pieces of self. Stolen lives swears sworn secrecy, scared to stand for truth. You lie there guilty of killing the next Messiah, a prophet demonized by churches just like before, manipulating good men to do bad things. We are all affected, infected, injected, selected for new case study and advancement of biological warfare. Came a long way from spreading smallpox through blankets. You can't ask Siri, what are they not telling us? There is no platform uncorrupt, no nutrient untainted, no truth to trust, a man unloved, a clue undiscovered, a cry unheard, recorded a people's plight, original sound replaced with pre-rehearsed dub, freedom samples and heartbeats, turntables, flip chairs, open windows, unlocked doors. We are remixes of legends, reenacting what we've always been, calling it groundbreaking but already broken, searching for signals, looking for signs, emojis of time, hieroglyphics on living room walls drawn in crayon, mommy yells, erasing messages, vandalizing new age Picasso, silencing children, replacing their innovation with memorization. The Bibles are far from finished, books are still being written, authors are becoming illiterate, only fragments of lost sentences and quite a few broken pieces. We are lost, we are incomplete, we are brainwashed, we are misled, we are overworked and processed, we are forever works in progress, still learning how to love, how to respect, how to jump without ropes around our necks, how to move to what comes next, how to remove this dogma, this taboo, this mask, this hex, how to
As a man trying to outrun the sun, stare into the eye of a storm and ask the seasons to help me change. The tears of a clown, the demons of priests, the emptiness of poets, the hope of dreamers, the world on fire, the love of the lost, unseen, unfound, undescribable, the final word, the applause, reunion with self, the next day, strangers again, stranger than friends we don't know, we can't see past their character, some memories, sometimes enemies, for all the times I wore out my welcome, tore out my heart countless times before, countless army of metaphors spilling off pages, fusing into unrealities till life makes more sense to me. I pretend to be me and write me my own reality. There are those who help me breathe, who help me see through ghosts of the past to show they are no longer real. I've known authentic women, those that would have defined forever, but I was young and taught of skepticism, fear, and self-sabotage. They are responsible for today's blues in the sky. With wind, shift blame, memories of written wounds. He would have been 19 today. I'm always reminded of an unsettling silence, an overreactive imagination producing negativity, doubt, sorrow, regret, and pessimism, ending friendships before they ever had a chance to begin. Unfiltered emotions, mistranslated feeling, self-isolation, my last defense mechanism. Every bully, every black eye, every time I was talked down to, every lie told that would mold a low self-view. I love you, she responds. I loathe you. I could use someone to talk to, papers and pens. Sometimes some people pretend to listen, but only until they grow bored. There are those I've known from long ago that are no longer known. And which stranger? There are strangers that walk with shining magnetic auras. There are those just like me, judged by the men before me, stood me next to a man I never was and called me by his name, became just another number, just another day, just another story of me, just a narrator, just because. Just because. Just because. And still, chasing the sun, resting on moon, staring into the eyes of the storm, watching watches timeless disappears. The minutes are plotting against you, the hours are plotting revenge on days becoming years. Seasons change, people change into stars, man becoming sun, shooting stars, stars shooting up, dying legend, dying alone. I break clocks and play future. I am moments easily, simply forgettable. They say they love me. Time will tell what reality sees, but don't look at your watch because time will kill you with memories, regrets, dogmas, and taboos. Age-old truths, boy. I'm forever. Man, I've been growing in cycles, revolving, devolving, evolving, finding balance, erasing pride because playing God is far too much of a responsibility. So I'll be fish rearranging scales, dancing to my own heart beats the shit out of me sometimes, trying to fly with invisible weights and lines, no numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 7. Call me infinite, the one who brings discomfort, focusing illusion that helps hide the other side of that processed cosmetic exterior that scrapes the paint off clowns trying to be leaders, knowing themselves to be inferior. I'm not telling you you're evil, but you're certainly feeding this monster. No longer wear that mask over your eyes, covering your ears to a foreign child's cries. Realize the fruits of your labor have been poisoned. The pride within has been tainted. The picture they painted was far from an accurate portrayal, abandoning the blind allegiance disguised as patriotism, discovering humanism, no longer to play war with nameless, faceless rivals. I pray for all woman and child. There are those that hate themselves and search for something to latch onto to help forget what they don't like about themselves. Fiction, more real than you, more believed than you, hypnotized by news. I, reminded of olds like drum circles and dim-lit bars and square buildings, chanting, praising, a mixture of love and great spirits, cathedrals for throwaways and those who learned how to change chains into change. The next upcoming phase, the city will starve with unfertile soil, while the outskirts will produce vegetation and enlightenment. I've never been known to be one to traditionally stay on topic or end a poem, so
I can still remember just how much love I had in me and how I would show it, and almost convincing myself that I was getting it back. I wasn't an idiot but a fool. I knew just what was happening all along, but decided to tell myself otherwise. Other lies screaming before my eyes, but I told myself it was me. It wasn't her but me. I blamed myself for another's faults that they carried way before I knew them. I never knew them, but always knew them. None was special, but I made them feel it. Then they became it. Then came the madness. Con artists, alcoholics, coke addicts, thankful their lives were so easily see-through that they couldn't even convince their friends or family. One even tried to pressure me with a crooked officer. I told her to bring it on and that I would go to the precinct first. The officer would sometimes park outside late at night, and I was ready just in case. In a way I better not share. That was 5 years ago. Since then, no new friends, just me versus bad dreams until they woke up and left my dimension. Many things that break the average person, many ways to fix problems, many like to just break hearts, many think
Have you ever seen a whale? that they break a horse's spirit. Have you ever seen the way that they break a horse's spirit with no hair at all?
Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? A rope tied to a wooden post, approximately 2 feet, center of the scorching sun, almost resembling the width of low-income house space, almost like an office cubicle, almost like the perimeter of freedoms we actually are free to practice. Conformists march with one purpose: protect thy master. And every leader is a religious fanatic. It's like good Christian leaning on that same wooden post, reading from the Bible. Freedom is a myth. No, freedom is a choice with much consequence. I mean, who wants to be told that we are wrong and that all future wrongs will not make right out of a horrible past? I mean, we could restore this nation's deficit, but that would mean one less movie, one less sports event, and much less profit. And today's prophets are zombies, shadows, surpassing souls that possess mind control. We're living up to an ancient character's roles. This shit's been done before. Witch hunters, exiled, plague this nation today. Growing by number, every new child, another contestant. Presidents mock the worth of their residents and legalize more and more antidepressants to control you through new scientific breakthroughs into another altered dimension. Children cry for more, ignored by adults that cry for more than most because everything just simply isn't enough. There is more blasphemy in community church than there are pure thoughts running through a painted saint, tainted by paper gods. Inanimate objects hold more worth than you. I broke curfews, traveled further than year's boundaries that never allow me to, and saw stories of a world retold through glorious fiction. Fairy tales prevail over yesterday's reality, and today's reality is touched up on TV. Isn't anything real anymore? American Idol's got more followers than their originators. Flat surface trapped in a square screen. We ran out of 3D glasses to drink an all-sided truth from. Then we're gonna run out of glasses of poison and unattended, unattentive youth picking locks of daddy's liquor cabinets, cause it's easier to lie to the drunken than it is the sober and so-called conscious. Most know, but they won't ever show. And fear of being tied to a wooden post. Punch, kick, scarred, and beaten for believing in themselves and not practicing the beliefs of someone else. Change may not save, but change may help. Change may change these old ways, have them transform themselves into new days. The tomorrows always promised, which never seem to have came, may just be today. But yesterday's thinker oversees the beauty of difference and marks it as a cancer. Oversees the beauty of difference is marked as a cancer. And we think we got the cure. I could show you the way without speaking one word, but you don't like to be touched, especially by great spirits, your pastor said. Discipline directs you to obedience, confidence lessons with every snap of the whip. Masochist seen as heaven-goer, extremists, the activists fighting opposing fascists in order to become another's fascist, confusing the masses. No complete unity equals one more for the enemy, dividing the structure of a strong force which threatens to corrupt authority with an imbalance of power, enslaving the free people. Free-thinking people thinking they free people, controlled by alarm clocks, time clocks, and Big Boss, your new god. In this church estate, I see church and state designed wooden stakes for outcasts of the voice speaking in tongue. Who fired first? Who was fired first? Who do we really fight for? Who do we see through peepholes in our doors with violent citizens praying for more tragedies to happen in order to justify the chaos they cause? This cross calls for the second child of God, a daughter of God, the sacrifice a woman makes. Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the
way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way man breaks a woman's spirit? With no care at all. August 26, 2004. It's been 18 years, and I still miss you. Rest in peace, my friend.